I want to show you first here is 430. This is the new WinDebug. It used to be called WinDebug Preview, but after several years of it being a preview, Microsoft has now made it the new WinDebug. So you can just go to this web page and you can just download and install it directly. If you are running on an Intel processor, you can just download it here. There's other ways to get it too. If you're on an ARM processor, then you have to go get the Windows Software Development Kit from here. And when you run it, you can choose what components to install, and you install debugging tools for Windows. Now, if you do that on Windows for ARM, the end result is kind of messed up. What happens is it creates a shortcut called WinDebug ARM64, which does not work. You have to ignore the shortcut and dig your way to the real code. And I actually don't understand how it can mess it up so much. It creates a shortcut which appears to go to the right place, but when you run it, it tells you it can't run on your hardware. The real debuggers, for some stupid reason, are in C program files x86, which would be for 32-bit Intel code. But that's where they are, in a directory called Windows Kits, and then in 10, even though this is Windows 11, the directory is called 10, then you go in debuggers, and then you go into your hardware, and here's ARM, x64, and x86. So ARM64 is the one you want. This WinDebug here is the one that works. There is another shortcut created, like I say. You have to dig to this yourself and launch it from here. I made a shortcut on my desktop to run it. The one that the Start menu finds does not work, just to give you all good and confused. On top of that, if you're running on ARM, you get the old WinDebug, not the new one. So it's not going to have the ribbon. In fact, it works pretty much the same. But this is the old WinDebug, not the new one. And you can see it's WinDebug ARM64. So this is running on Windows on ARM, and you can do everything here. It's just not quite as cool as the new way. So once you get your WinDebug going, then you want to do, first you have to set your machine to allow kernel debugging. We're not going to do kernel debugging in this one, so it doesn't matter. All right. So I launch WinDebug, and I should have got rid of the word preview. I have to do that with anyway, so it's not preview anymore. So now we're going to debug Notepad. So I do File, Open Executable, and then I go to C Windows 32, C Windows, System 32, Notepad.exe, and open that. All right, now I'm going to change the font to make it easier to see. And maximize this window. All right. And so now you see it has loaded Notepad, and here it is loading various modules like notepad.exe, ntdil.dil, and other things like kernel32, user32, and so on. It's not running, it's loaded it, and then it ends up at a breakpoint here, which is the way debuggers work, right? They load the program and they break because the reason you're running it in a debugger is presumably you want to examine it and step through it or put breakpoints in it and things like that. So now you can see the ntdil loading here. Ntdil is here, and there's these addresses here, which I think is the start and end address of ntdil. So it's ffb f9ce, FFB FA0E, so it's not very big. It goes from F9 to FA. That's ntdil. And you can verify that by looking in Process Explorer. I'm not going to bother, but if you look in Process Explorer, you can see where the Notepad file has loaded, and see it'll find the same addresses here. So, all right. And if you, all right, so now the program is stopped at a breakpoint. And that breakpoint is inside, on the other one, it's inside ntdil. It broke at ntdil ldrp do debugger break. So that's not too surprising. All right. Now, if you look down here, you can look at the stack. I don't think you don't have the stack view in the old debugger. If you want to see the stack, you enter K. There, that shows you the stack. So you see here I am an ntdil debugger break from initialize process, initialize internal, initialize thunk. Like I say, these are all the steps when you launch a program. It calls part of Windows to launch it, and another part, and finally gets in your program, and then it breaks. So, all right. So now I'm going to find the symbols in Notepad. So I examine Notepad, bang star. And there they are. There's a lot of them. So I'm going to limit myself to, I'll move this over and get rid of this. All right, let's do the ones with the word main in them. So do star main, star. I'm trying to find where Notepad starts. And now I can see stuff. Here's something called WinMain and WinMain CRT startup. The thing that starts is called WinMain in older versions of Windows. In the newer version, it's called WinMain. All right. So we're going to put a breakpoint there, which is BU at Notepad, bang, WinMain. All right, and now I can do BL to list the breakpoints, and it shows I do have a breakpoint, and this is why, I don't know why Microsoft bothered with this crazy tool. It might as well just be a command line tool in the DOS prompt, as far as I'm concerned. They try to put some GUI implements, like things you can click here, but they really are kind of pointless. But anyway, if I wanted to clear that breakpoint, I could click this, and it will then execute BC0 to clear 0 for you. Now I'm going to put it back in. There. Anyway. All right, so that's the breakpoint. So now I'm going to run to the breakpoint. And you can run with the G for go. In the graphical modern version, there's a go button you can click to that has the ribbon, which isn't in this older version of Notepad, of Windbag here. So I go with G, it runs, and now it hits breakpoint 0 at Notepad WinMain. So I finally made it out of the Microsoft operating system code, and I've made it into Notepad itself, where Notepad is launched. All right, now I can view the loaded modules and do a stack trace. So LM, here's the loaded modules. There's a module named Notepad, and that has symbols. There's a module called NTDIL, and that has symbols. Then there's a bunch of other modules that do not have symbols, so I'm not going to be able to refer to named locations inside there by name, just by address. And I can see the stack with K. So I'm in Notepad WinMade. After this one, I'm 3 functions deep in Notepad, and then NTDIL and kernel 32. So I'm 5 layers deep in the sort of dream within a dream. This function calls that function. There are 5 functions currently running, waiting for this one to return and this one to return to get back to the operating system. All right, so now I can find API calls that create files, which is examine, NTDIL, bang, star create file, star. And if you remember the API monitor, we monitored through the Windows API to find out which calls actually created a file in Notepad, and it was one of these. I think it was NT create file. So here's various create file, EXP create file, NT create file, ZW create file, and so on. There's a bunch of create file functions of different types in NTDIL. So we're going to breakpoint at ZW create file and go. So break NTDIL, bang, and GW create file, which is here, so I can copy that and paste it here. All right, and that should create, I'm going to do a BL to see my breakpoints, and there it is. You see I have a breakpoint at WinMain and a breakpoint at NT create file. So now if I continue from here with go, it's going to hit breakpoint 1, so it's ready to create a file, and it's calling NT create file. All right. Now I do a stack trace, and you'll see how deep we are now. Oh, just 1. That's a little screwy. I don't know why I see only 1. I expected to see a whole lot of K output. Oh, there it is. It was just slow. Okay, that's what I expected because I'm pretty deep now. So I'm in kernel from here and then into NT create file. So I'm 10 layers deep in functions. Even more. There we are. It's just being slow on me. So here it is, launching Notepad. Here's WinMain down here. Went to before. So I'm really 17, and that's a hexadecimal number. So that's 16 plus 7, 23 functions deep is where I am. I launched Notepad, then I've got Windows storage, kernel base, and eventually call create file. So, you know, it's quite a chore. Now, there are multi-threads, by the way. When it hit the breakpoint, it told you 0:000. That shows you it's in thread 0. All right. And the first number is the processor number, and the second is the thread number. So when I did it, it's processor number 0 and thread number 0. I can see all the threads with tilde. And there are 3 threads. but the one that is actually running and hitting NT create file is thread number 0. All right, I can delete the breakpoints. BL will show them. I can then delete them. So BL, and I can use the clear button to delete it and the clear button to delete it. And now if I do BL, there are none. So now I can run this, and if you don't have the go arrow, you have to use the G command, which is what I'll have to do here. If I go, then Notepad will now run and launch, and here's Notepad. And you can then go into Process Explorer to find the flag. So that's it for this one, and it works on ARM. It's just a little bit different because you get the older version of WinDebug, but really all Microsoft did was add this ornamental ribbon to the top and a few extra tabs you don't need. All the functionality is pretty much the same as the old version of the debugger. So I'm going to stop this one.